Get faster internet speeds for free when you get TV, internet, and phone. Ask for Trio from Rev.
Rev, join the revolution.
Good evening, Bahamas. Coming up tonight,
members of Parliament react to a ruling handed down by a Supreme Court justice. That story straight ahead.
What some members of Parliament had to say about tube-tying comments made by Richard Lightbourne. That and more tonight on our news.
Nico Grant steps down as leader of opposition business in the House of Assembly. We'll tell you why. The Democratic National Alliance gears up for its national convention. We have the details. Welcome to our news. I'm Christina McNeil. Thanks for joining us. Topping news tonight, one day after Supreme Court Justice Indra Charles handed down a ruling that granted a permanent injunction against Marathon MP Jerome Fitzgerald, the Education Minister and other members of Parliament fired back, calling her ruling overreaching and even pledging to defy it. Jasmine Brown was in the House of Assembly today and filed this report.
Scandalous, shocking, and astounding were just some of the words used to describe the ruling by members of Parliament who insisted the court does not have jurisdiction over Parliament. Charles ruled yesterday that Fitzgerald breached the constitutional right to privacy of Save the Bay's members when he read their private emails in Parliament and ordered him to pay $150,000 in damages. House Speaker Dr. Kendall Major says he was astounded by the ruling, which he says violates the principle of separation of powers.
The Parliament will continue, despite its ruling, will continue to function unfettered. As Chair, I am unaware of any jurisdiction anywhere in the Commonwealth where the court attempts to curtail the actions of Parliament of any member.
Minister Fitzgerald and Fox Hill MP Fred Mitchell also addressed the House this morning, saying they too saw the ruling as ridiculous. The two MPs also made it clear they plan to ignore that ruling.
No one in their wildest imagination could have thought that a judge of the Supreme Court would grant an order to restrain MPs from speaking in Parliament to defend this nation. This is simply remarkable. Remarkable. I wonder if people, a permanent injunction against members of Parliament from speaking in Parliament? What? The court should not and will not make an order that it cannot enforce. In my humble and legal opinion, the ruling of Justice Charles is one such order. It cannot be enforced. Mr. Speaker, you alone can stop members from speaking in this place.
Also addressing the matter was former PLP MP turned independent Greg Moss, who said this is one matter he has to side with the government on.
This is scandalous. Absolute nonsense. And I'm usually more measured in my words than this, Mr. Speaker. But this goes to the foundation of our democracy.
Meantime, the government has announced its intention to appeal the ruling. Reporting for our news, I'm Jasmine Brown.
Thanks, Jasmine. Well, former State Minister for Legal Affairs Damian Gomez, QC, today resigning as chairman of the Committee on Privilege in the House of Assembly. The South and Central Eleuthera MP says the decision came once it was decided that the committee will investigate Save the Bay affidavits connected to one of his clients, Peter Nygaard.
Given the nature of the reference to the Committee on Privilege, that I had an obvious conflict of interest arising out of my representation of Mr. Peter Nygaard, who is widely known to be a nemesis of Save the Bays.
Nygaard has become embroiled in controversy ever since allegations surfaced that he allegedly helped orchestrate a 2.5-year campaign of fear against activists he saw as opponents to development plans for Nygaard Key. Gomez went on to say that given his capacity in private practice, it would not be fair to the process if he remained chairman. In other news, even after issuing an apology following his comments during his speech at the Free National Movement's convention last week, Montague MP Richard Lightbourne still facing heavy criticism from his peers today. Our Giorgio stirrup reports.
Backlash on Free National Movement MP for Montague Richard Lightbourne continued in the House of Assembly today, with members of the Progressive Liberal Party and the Free National Movement scolding the MP about comments made that unwed women with more than 2 children having to have their tubes tied. Some members called the comments simply unacceptable. While he acknowledged that Lightbourne has apologized, FNM leader Dr. Hubert Minnis condemned the MP's controversial comments.
Let me state unequivocally and assure this Honorable House and the Bahamian people that the Free National Movement has no such policy, no such plans, and no such intention. On behalf of the Free National Movement, I absolutely repudiate and disassociate myself and the party which I lead from any such proposed policy as that postulated by the member for Montague.
Lightbourne's call for some unwed mothers with more than 2 children to have their tubes tied came during the FNM's convention last week. Minnis said Lightbourne refused to submit his speech to the convention's review panel.
The convention committee of the party had implemented a review procedure for all speeches proposed to be delivered to the recent convention. Despite several requests made to the writer, of the speech of the member for Montague was never submitted for prior vetting by the review panel.
However, the Montague MP insisted today that his words were misinterpreted.
My words were clearly misinterpreted. My words were misinterpreted, Mr. Speaker. And I would have hoped that this matter here would have given this House the opportunity to direct its attention toward a matter which is of serious concern to this country. We need to have this conversation with regard to sexual responsibility in our country.
Reporting for our news, I'm Giorgio stirrup.
Well, Transport and Aviation Minister Glenys Hanna-Martin calling the comments made by Montague MP Richard Lightbourne a disgrace, adding that his words threaten the fundamental rights of Bahamian women.
References are reminiscent of toxic stereotypes which have a tragic history for our people and evidence a disdainful bias against our Bahamian women, and in particular, Mr. Speaker, working class Bahamian women. His comments are a blight and an indictment, an insult and an assault on poor women in our country.
Following scolding from various members of the House, Long Island MP Loretta Butler Turner stood to defend the Montague MP, saying there have been many comments against women made in the lower chamber, and she cannot understand why this one stands out so much.
Mr. Speaker, if we can sit here as legislators and take grave exception, why is it that we do not take exception to individuals who talk about beating their girlfriends?
Butler Turner says other comments were not taken as seriously.
We also had, Mr. Speaker, a very high-ranking public officer of the court speak about flogging immigrants. And yet, Mr. Speaker, where was the outrage? We all make mistakes, Mr. Speaker. That is the larger picture.
Well, Nico Grant has resigned as leader of opposition business in the House of Assembly and shadow minister of works. His announcement comes amid reports that the position has been offered to Long Island MP Loretta Butler Turner to prevent a fracture within the Free National Movement. Vonique Toot reports.